7 years. For 7 years, my best friend and I have been stuck in this goddamn novel, tasked with fixing the lives of a tragic starlet and a self-destructive heiress. And we done it. We dragged them from their scripted fates of misery and ruin. But then, the novel's leading man showed up and torched everything we built. The tragic starlet, the one Leo had painstakingly molded into an Oscar-winning actress, was now sobbing on every entertainment news channel, announcing she was quitting Hollywood to be a housewife for the story's hero. And the heiress, the one I had single-handedly guided into becoming a powerhouse CEO, was handing over her entire tech empire to the same guy. Our 7 years of work erased overnight. So here we were, Leo and me, standing on the edge of a skyscraper's roof. He called it a leap of faith, a final curtain call for our own tragedy. Down below, the two women who had broken us just thought we were putting on a show. Chloe, the actress, even had the nerve to critique us. "Your acting is terrible," she yelled up, her voice thin in the wind. "You should take some lessons from Julian." Isabella, the CEO, was already impatient. "Just get down from there. Julian's neck has been bothering him. You gotta give him a massage. If you don't, I'll never forgive you." The only answer they got was the sickening thud of two bodies hitting the pavement. We saw them fall to their knees in the spreading pools of blood, their screams tearing through the city air as they frantically tried to piece us back together. But it was no use. We were already gone, because Leo and I had just been given the God-tier spender system. We were back in our own world, and it was time to live. It started 7 years ago. Leo and I got bound to a redemption system and thrown into the pages of a cheesy, old-school romance novel. My job was to save Isabella Rossi, the supposed villainess, a trust fund kid hell-bent on self-destruction after being cast aside. His job was to save Chloe Anderson, the family's other daughter, a talented but timid actress who was destined to be chewed up and spit out by the industry. We spent 7 years rewriting their endings. Isabella, who was supposed to end up broke and alone, was now the celebrated CEO of a tech giant, Rossi Innovations. Chloe, who was scripted to fade into obscurity and die of a broken heart, had become the youngest actress to win a triple crown of acting awards, thanks to Leo's tireless management and belief in her. Our redemption progress bar was at 99%. We were about to win. Then, in a single night, it reset to 0. At first, we thought it was a system glitch. Then we went online. Rossi Innovations had just gone public yesterday. Today, its CEO, Isabella Rossi, posted a shocking statement on Twitter. "Effective immediately, I will be stepping down as CEO of Rossi Innovations. I am transferring my entire portfolio of shares and related assets to Mr. Julian Croft. I will remain with the company in an advisory role to support him. Please trust that under his leadership, the company will achieve an even brighter future." The internet exploded. My phone blew up with calls from panicked shareholders who couldn't reach Isabella. It froze and died in my hand. I had to borrow Leo's phone just to get the full story. As her husband, I was just as blindsided as every investor. I called her again and again, but every time it went straight to the cold, robotic voice of her voicemail. A few minutes later, Leo tapped my shoulder and showed me his phone. Isabella had just posted on Instagram. "My biggest dream since I was a girl was to stand beside you at the top of the world. I finally made it. Everything I did was worth it for you." The picture was of her gazing, lovesick, at the profile of a man. We looked at each other. We both knew who it was. "It's the male lead," I said. "Julian Croft." For 7 years, we'd kept them away from him, rewriting their story so they wouldn't fall into his orbit. We failed. In one fell swoop, he had turned my life's work into a joke. "That's Julian Croft." "Wait a minute. That means Chloe." No. She wouldn't," Leo muttered, denying the thought before it could fully form. But his self-deception was cut short. The tech guys had just gotten my phone working again when another bombshell dropped on Twitter. Chloe Anderson, the Triple Crown winning actress, was retiring. To all my amazing fans, thank you for your years of love and support. It is with a heavy heart that I announce, after much consideration, my decision to retire from acting and return to private life. I have played many roles, but now I want to focus on playing the role of a wife. I hope you can all understand and support me. Return to private life. She and Leo had been secretly married for 7 years. Besides me, no one knew. This announcement should have been his victory lap. Instead, looking at his phone, Leo's smile was a twisted, painful thing. "Ethan," he said, his voice hollow, "you think she's talking about me?" Before I could answer, we had our answer. Chloe walked through the door. With her was Julian Croft. They were so wrapped up in each other, they didn't even see us sitting quietly in the living room. "I fought so hard to get you away from that woman," Chloe cooed, wrapping her arms around him. You'd better make it up to me tonight. Her tone was a mix of playful pouting and a blatant invitation. The light in Leo's eyes died completely. I knew how much he had poured into her career. Unlike me, I had a background in finance. Leo knew nothing about Hollywood. He learned it all from scratch for her. He'd weathered the brutal, backstabbing world of the entertainment industry to protect her, taking hits so she wouldn't have to. And now, she was throwing it all away for another man. I put a hand on his shoulder. Leo, I said, my voice firm. Let's just quit the mission. He looked at me, the confusion in his eyes slowly hardening into a steely resolve. He nodded. Just then, the system, usually silent and useless, flared to life in our minds. Warning, the male lead has appeared. Be careful of your mission progress. Wait, what's going on? Why has the progress bar been reset to 0? Ignoring the system's belated panic, we sent our request. System, we're quitting. Send us home. The system seemed to crash again. After a long pause, it just said, verifying request, and went silent. Useless as always. We didn't have time to dwell on it. The couple by the door was heating up, moving past kissing and towards something much more urgent. Crash. The sound of shattering ceramic echoed through the room. Julian, in his haste to lay Chloe down on the console table, had swept everything off its surface. Among the debris was the handcrafted mug Leo had given Chloe for their first anniversary. Back in our world, Leo was a gifted ceramicist. He designed and thrown that mug himself, pouring all his love for her into the clay. I remember him boasting about how much she loved it, how she promised to treasure it forever. Now, she barely glanced at the shards on the floor before turning her full attention back to Julian, pulling him closer. Leo's face was a mask of cold fury. He walked over and began picking up the pieces. The two lovebirds finally paused. Chloe clutched her dress closed, her voice sharp with annoyance. Leo, what are you doing here? Go back to your own apartment. Her Leo's apartment was a tiny one-bedroom place he'd bought with his life savings back when she was a struggling actress. It was supposed to be their first home together. Now that she was a star with a mansion in the Hollywood Hills, that little apartment was no longer her home. He had to come here, to her house, just to see his own wife. Leo gathered the broken pieces and handed them to me. Then he walked straight up to Julian and punched him square in the face. "Ah, Leo, you bastard. What are you doing? How dare you?" Chloe's shriek was cut off by the sharp smack of Leo's hand across her face. "Don't worry," he said, his voice dangerously calm. "There's enough for both of you." He hadn't held back. A red welt immediately bloomed on her cheek. Her eyes widened in fury. "Leo, have you lost your mind? Apologize to Julian right now." She didn't even care about her own stinging face. Her first instinct was to defend her precious hero. The last trace of sadness in Leo's eyes vanished, replaced by pure contempt. He looked at the woman before him and spat out 2 words. "In your dreams." Without another glance, he grabbed my arm and pulled me out of the house. As the door closed behind us, we could hear Chloe fussing over Julian. "Oh, it's so red. It looks awful. Don't worry. I'll make Leo pay for this. I swear, he'll regret ever touching you." We weren't even in the car for 5 minutes before Leo's phone rang. It was the manager of the small pottery studio he'd built for himself in the Arts District. The man's voice was choked with sobs. "Some thugs just showed up. They're smashing everything." In the background, we could hear the brutal sounds of destruction. The blood drained from Leo's face. By the time we got to the studio, it was too late. The place was a wasteland. Years of his work, hundreds of unique pieces, were nothing but a sea of shattered clay on the floor. Leo stared at the wreckage, his body rigid. "It's fine," he said, his voice tight. "We were leaving anyway." But I could see his hands trembling. Chloe knew exactly how to twist the knife. She knew how much his art meant to him, and she had destroyed it, all to get even for a bruised cheek on her new lover. Leo was hyperventilating, shaking uncontrollably. I decided to take him to a bar, hoping a stiff drink would help. At the bar, the waitress smiled apologetically. "I'm sorry, sir, but this card has been declined." I tried another. Declined. And another. All of them were frozen. Leo pulled out his wallet, but it was the same story. Every single one of his cards was useless. I knew instantly what had happened. I used the last of my cash to get Leo a hotel room. Then I drove back to my own house. Isabella was waiting for me. "You're back," she said, not looking up from her tablet. "I assume you found out your cards don't work? Are you here to apologize?" She sat on the sofa, glancing up at me with a cold, dismissive smirk. "What Leo did to Julian, you're partly to blame. As compensation, I've decided to gift your shares in Rossi Innovations to Julian. Just sign the transfer papers." Her voice was casual, as if she were talking about giving away old furniture. But let's be clear, a gift is a gift. If you two don't personally apologize to him today, I'll freeze your accounts indefinitely. And that little consulting firm of yours? You can kiss it goodbye. I'd brace myself for this, but seeing the utter contempt in her eyes still felt like a punch to the gut. While I wasn't an official employee, I was the second largest shareholder in Rossi Innovations. When she was just a naive kid fresh out of college, I was the one who built that company from the ground up. I poured more of my life into her company than my own, even using my firm as a financial feeder to keep Rossi Innovations afloat during the early days. Now, my own company was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, while hers was a stock market darling. Just yesterday, we'd stood together on the exchange floor, ringing the opening bell. I thought we'd finally made it. I never imagined she would just hand our entire empire over to someone else, and that I'd be the last to know. And now she was threatening to take everything I had left and serve it to her hero on a silver platter. Isabella, have you forgotten everything? When you were starting out, Leo got Chloe and her celebrity friends to promote your first product. That's what put Rossi Innovations on the map. Have you forgotten that? I took a step closer, my voice rising. And me? For years, I worked day and night for you. I handled everything from grassroots marketing to boardroom strategy. I have chronic back pain and ulcers because of this company. Isabella, do you have any conscience at all? A flicker of something, maybe guilt, crossed her face, but it was quickly replaced by irritation. That's why I'm giving you a chance. Just apologize, and this will all be over. In your dreams. Her expression turned venomous. Fine. Don't say I didn't give you a choice. She made a call. A few minutes later, the door burst open. Leo and I were grabbed by heavies and thrown into the back of a van. When I came to, we were in a dark, damp warehouse. Isabella and Chloe stood on either side of Julian Croft, a picture of perfect harmony. The two women who had once been rivals, fighting tooth and nail over him, were now united by a common enemy. And that enemy was us, the two people who had spent 7 years by their side. Leo and I were tied tightly to chairs, our mouths gagged. All we could do was glare at them. Julian feigned concern. Oh, isn't this a bit much? My face will heal in a few weeks. You didn't have to go to all this trouble. As he spoke, he dramatically touched a tiny, almost healed scab on his lip and winced in pretend pain. That was all it took for Isabella and Chloe to melt. They looked back at us, their expressions hardening with fresh hatred. We spoiled them, Isabella said coldly. It's time they learned some humility. A mountain of a man with tattooed arms stepped out of the shadows, clapping a hand to his chest. Don't you worry. We'll make sure these two learn to be real obedient. Julian's eyes gleamed with triumph, though he kept up his charade. They're used to a softer life. Please, be gentle with them. Julian, you're too kind, Chloe cooed. This place is too grim for you ladies, Julian said, wrapping his arms around them. Let's go. Isabella and Chloe, completely smitten, let him lead them away. It was only after they left that Leo and I began to understand just what kind of gentle treatment we were in for. We thought we knew Isabella and Chloe. We were wrong. Their cruelty until now had just been an appetizer. In that place, we stopped being human. We were lucky to get one stale piece of bread a day. Sometimes, it was just maggot-infested leftovers. Beatings were a daily routine. We were slaves, forced to wash their feet and shine their shoes. The slightest mistake earned us a lashing with a leather whip. We lost all track of time in that sunless hell. Every day felt like a year. I don't know how long it had been, but one day, during a shift change, Leo and I saw our chance. We made a break for it. The feeling of fresh air on our skin wasn't liberating, it was terrifying. We were paralyzed by the fear of being caught, of being dragged back for a punishment even worse than before. Our bodies were a canvas of open wounds and deep bruises. Every step was agony. We hid in a cramped maintenance closet under a stairwell, holding our breath, listening for the sound of footsteps. Suddenly, a sound buzzed in my head. We both flinched, thinking we'd been found. But it was the system finally back online. Host, I have completed my verification. Your mission was actually completed successfully some time ago, but the system's settlement program was delayed. What happened to you two? The system was, as always, a step behind. We didn't have the energy to be angry. Only a few words mattered. We succeeded? A long time ago. Yes, host. You are now free to return to your original world, and we will provide ample compensation for your troubles. I am so sorry. I was too late. The system's voice was laced with guilt. We only had one question. How do we get back? Your physical bodies in this world must die. Hearing that, Leo turned to me, a genuine, relieved smile spreading across his face for the first time in what felt like an eternity. Ethan, he said, how about a leap of faith? Yeah, I breathe. I'm with you. Let's go home. We climbed to the roof of a nearest skyscraper. The wind whipped around us, a roaring in our ears. Below, the city was a river of headlights. Leo and I looked at each other and smiled, a shared expression of pure relief. Down on the street, Isabella and Chloe had gotten word and rushed over. What the hell do you think you're doing? Isabella screamed up at us. Get down from there right now. If you keep this up, I swear I'll have you locked up for another month. The thought of being locked up again sent a tremor of pure horror through us. The phantom pains of the whip and a gnawing hunger were still fresh. Death felt like a mercy, but from their perspective, we were just scared of the height. Their contempt was palpable. See? You're scared. So just get down, Chloe called out. Don't try to pull a stunt you don't have the guts to finish. She even started critiquing us. Your acting is terrible. That's not what someone who actually wants to jump looks like. Come on down. If you want to learn, you should take lessons from Julian. He studied directing. He's a professional. Isabella checked her watch, her patience clearly gone. I don't have time for this drama. Ethan Vance, get down here. Big Tony told me you two learned some massage techniques in there. Julian's neck has been stiff lately. You can go give him a massage, and then maybe I'll forgive you for all this trouble. She delivered her final ultimatum. Hurry up. I'm giving you 1 minute. With that, she turned and walked confidently back toward her car, fully expecting me to come crawling down, begging for her forgiveness. But I didn't hear a word she said. I was still on the roof. Leo and I took another step forward, our toes right on the edge, our bodies swaying in the wind. Chloe, still standing outside, watched us with a look of amusement, as if we were a stage play. Wow, playing tough, huh? Leo, you think I feel bad for locking you up? You think this is going to make me back down? Let me tell you, Julian is my line in the sand. I will never compromise on him. Her voice dripped with condescension. Go on, jump. I'd love to see it. A coward like you who's afraid of his own shadow and cries over a paper cut? You, threatening to jump? Please, I know you better than that. She was still talking, her voice full of smug certainty. You would never jump. And on that final definitive word, Leo took his last step. How long does it take to fall 23 stories? About 4 seconds. Just enough time for a life to be snuffed out right before your eyes. The mocking smile hadn't even faded from Chloe's face when a spray of blood and tissue splattered across her expensive dress. Before she could even blink, Leo's body hit the concrete not 10 feet from where she stood. Chloe froze, staring at the blood on her hands, at the unrecognizable fragments of flesh. A violent tremor shook her entire body. Ah! As her raw, grief-stricken scream echoed off the buildings, a security guard who'd finally made it to the roof tackled me, pulling me back from the edge. They dragged me downstairs in handcuffs. By the time I got to the lobby, Chloe was on her knees beside the mangled corpse that was barely recognizable as Leo. She was trying to gather him in her arms, but his body was too broken. She could only scoop up pieces. Leo, don't scare me. You wouldn't jump. You were always so afraid of pain. How could you jump? She sobbed, her voice cracking. Are you still mad at me? I'm sorry, okay? I was wrong. Leo, please come back. I know I was wrong. Leo, Leo. She cried his name over and over, a desperate, hopeless chant that would never be answered. I watched the scene unfold and just smiled, a cold, contemptuous curl on my lips. Isabella, still sitting in her car, hadn't seen Leo jump. Growing impatient, she finally rolled down the tinted window, her expression annoyed. When she saw me being escorted out in cuffs, a flicker of satisfaction crossed her face. Ethan, you're late. As punishment, you can run back. She was about to say more when she irritably dug a finger in her ear. Chloe, what are you screaming about? You're going to make me go deaf. Her words trailed off as Chloe's head snapped around. Her eyes were bloodshot, and she stared at Isabella with a look of pure, murderous hatred. It was only then that Isabella saw the mangled body on the pavement in front of her. She gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. After a moment of shock, her head whipped toward me, her eyes wide with a dawning horror. Ethan, you wouldn't. The terrifying thought had barely formed before she started shaking her head, denying it. You wouldn't do it, right? You were just trying to scare me, weren't you? She was desperate for my reassurance, but my mind was already somewhere else. I was wondering if Leo was back in our world already, living it up. Damn it, when was it my turn? Why did I hesitate for that split second? My look of regret and frustration was misinterpreted by Isabella as something else entirely. It was the look that finally made her afraid. She scrambled out of the car and ran to me, trying to get my attention. Ethan, don't tell me you're going to do what Leo did. You won't die, right? Right? Answer me. Leo is already dead. You can't follow him. You have to promise me. She pleaded, her voice thick with panic. I just felt tired of it all, giving her a look that said, "We've already been over this." Realizing I was serious, that I truly wanted to die, she began to panic, searching for the right words to keep me here. "Don't die, and I'll give you anything you want. I know you and Leo were close, but he's gone. You're still alive. We can start over. Please don't give up." Hearing Isabella talk so casually about Leo being dead, her tone utterly disrespectful and almost relieved, ignited something in Chloe. The hatred in her eyes became a raging inferno directed straight at Isabella. But Isabella didn't notice. She just ordered her men to take me away. I was locked up again. The last time I was locked up, I lived a life worse than death, starved and beaten. This time, I was weighted on hand and foot, living in the lap of luxury. The circumstances were polar opposites, yet the reality was the same. I still wasn't being treated like a person. To prevent me from trying to kill myself, Isabella had guards posted outside my door 24/7. The room was bugged with cameras in every corner, allowing her to monitor me at all times. Even when I used the bathroom, a guard stood watch. But she granted my every request. Anything I wanted, it appeared. The food was flown in daily from Michelin-star restaurants around the world. The water for my baths was bottled from a pristine mountain spring. She even got my company shares back from Julian, presenting them to me like a trophy. I just gave the documents a passing glance, my expression blank. Nothing in this world mattered to me anymore. I couldn't take any of it with me. My indifference only made Isabella more desperate. She spent nearly every waking moment with me, recounting stories from our past. Remember in college, we used to love that 24-hour diner near campus? You always got the steak and egg special. We went there every year for your birthday. She sighed, a wistful look on her face. When did we stop going? Her convenient amnesia made me laugh, a short, bitter sound. You forgot? It was right after Julian, your one that got away, came back to town. The color drained from her face as she remembered. That night, I had waited for her at the diner for hours. I got a text message. Taking Julian to the ER, will be there late. She never showed up. At 2 in the morning, the owner, who was closing up, felt sorry for me and brought me a slice of cake on the house, wishing me a happy birthday. That cake tasted bitter and dry. I never went back. Isabella grabbed my hand, her voice pleading. "I'm sorry, Ethan. Julian had just come back. He didn't have any friends. I was just trying to help him out. I neglected you. I've already cut ties with him. I swear it will never happen again. From now on, I'll be with you for every birthday." I just pulled my hand away, saying nothing, retreating back into my own world. 3 days later, Isabella was called away by an urgent phone call. I was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when the door opened again. It was Chloe. She'd somehow dismissed the guards. She looked gaunt. Her cheekbones jutted out sharply, and her eyes had a strange, feverish brightness. "You want to die, don't you?" she said, a twisted smile playing on her lips. "I can help you." Isabella dared to be so disrespectful to Leo. I want her to know what it feels like to have her heart ripped out. Her laugh was chilling, her eyes filled with venom. "We have to be quick," she urged. "She'll figure out it was a diversion and be back any minute." I didn't care what her motives were. If she wanted to use my death to get revenge on Isabella, it was a win-win for me. I couldn't have these two sisters living peacefully after we were gone. It was only right that they destroy each other. By the time I stepped out onto the roof, Isabella was already racing back. The sight of me, standing on the ledge, made her face go pale with terror. "Ethan, no. Please don't jump," she begged, her voice breaking. "Don't leave me alone, please. All these days I've spent with you. Can't you see I've changed? I really do love you. I was just obsessed with a fantasy before. I can't live without you. Let's get married. We'll have 2 kids. A boy who looks just like you, and a girl who looks like me. We'll travel the world." I pretended to be moved by the future she painted, even taking a small step back from the edge. A wave of relief washed over Isabella's face. But I'd already seen them, the security guards sneaking up behind me. The moment their fingers brushed against my shirt, I threw myself forward. My body felt like a raindrop, returning to the earth. I was finally going home. "Ethan, you're finally awake." I opened my eyes and saw Leo sitting on a plush sofa across the room, scrolling on his phone. A bottle of vintage wine and a box of expensive cigars sat on the coffee table. The room was palatial. The bed I was lying on felt like it could fit a dozen people. This was definitely not my old, cramped apartment. Leo was dressed in an impeccably tailored suit that was understated but screamed money. He grinned at me, looking smug. "Took you long enough. I was starting to think you didn't want to come back. I left them a little parting gift," I said, sitting up. "Even with us gone, those 2 sisters are going to tear each other apart. But what's with this place? Before Leo could answer, a familiar, synthesized voice filled the room. Welcome home, hosts. System, you're still here. The system's voice sounded almost sheepish. I am part of your compensation package. After your departure, I received a significant update. I am no longer the redemption system. I am now the God tier spender system. You will receive a base deposit of $10 million every day just for logging in. Completing missions will yield even greater rewards. Leo showed me his bank account. He'd only been back for a little over a week, and he already had $200 million. So, you're saying we could just live it up from now on? I said, a wide grin spreading across my face. The system sounded cheerful. Precisely. And to celebrate your successful return, I am issuing a new mission. You have been granted a $100 million bonus. Spend it all within 24 hours to receive a $200 million reward. Failure to complete the mission will result in a penalty. What's the penalty? I asked. A 30-minute jog. That was basically no penalty at all. Well then, Leo said, standing up. Let's get spending. First stop, Rodeo Drive. We needed to upgrade our wardrobes. I walked into a designer boutique, did a quick scan, and pointed to a few displays. An eager salesperson immediately started to fold them for me. I shook my head. Not those. I want everything else in the store in my size. Leaving a team of stunned employees in my wake, I strolled into the next section. From suits to shoes to watches, I cleared the place out. The entire staff swarmed around me. When I felt thirsty, a glass of sparkling water appeared in my hand. When I looked tired, someone offered me a seat. I could hear them whispering, speculating about who I was. One bold saleswoman, banking on her good looks, tried to slip me her number. I politely declined. The final bill came to over $30 million. I swiped my new black card without a second thought. I'd always seen this kind of thing in movies and thought it looked cool. Doing it in real life was even better. Next up, cars. Leo had already called ahead. A brand new Rolls-Royce Phantom was waiting for me at the dealership. The manager greeted me like royalty. I cut him off. I'm busy. Let's just sign the papers. Minutes later, my brother and I were tearing down the freeway in our new toys, the engine a satisfying roar. Now this, I yelled over the wind, is living. That night, we threw a massive pool party at our new mansion. Legions of beautiful models in barely their bikinis vied for our attention. Every few minutes, one would have a clumsy accident, conveniently stumbling into my lap. She'd look up at me with wide, apologetic eyes, telling me she came from a poor family and couldn't possibly afford my medical bills, but she'd be happy to work it off. Such a hardworking girl. How could I be mad? Don't worry about it, I'd say with a smile. Just enjoy the party. In a novel world, I'd built a successful company, but my mind had always been consumed by Isabella and the mission. I never had time to actually enjoy anything. This was true freedom. After all the hell we'd been through, we'd earned it. The good times fly. 5 years had passed since we returned from the novel world. The new investment firm I'd founded was about to go public. As Leo and I were on our way to the stock exchange for the opening bell, our car screeched to a halt. Something was blocking the road. Our driver got out to check and came back a moment later. Mr. Hayes, it looks like some people are trying to pull an insurance scam. I frowned, not wanting to be late. I had another car sent to pick us up. As Leo and I stepped out onto the street, the two women who had been arguing with our driver suddenly rushed toward us. Their eyes filled with tears. Thank God, you're not dead. We finally found you. Hearing those familiar voices after so long, I thought I might feel a pang of anger or trauma. But 5 years of peace had healed those wounds. I was a different man now. I just gave them a calm, detached look, then climbed into the new car without a word, as if they were complete strangers. Somehow, Isabella Rossi and Chloe Anderson had crossed over from the novel world. They looked nothing like the powerful, glamorous women they once were. They were thin and haggard, a flicker of rage in his eyes at the sight of Chloe. The memories of his suffering were clearly not as buried as mine. But Chloe didn't seem to care about his anger. In fact, she looked thrilled that he even remembered her. Isabella just stood there, her face pale, completely ignored. The car pulled away. System, what the hell is going on? I demanded. The God tier spender system responded instantly. Analysis complete. After your departure, the conflict between the supporting actress and the villainess escalated. They ultimately murdered the male lead, Julian Croft. This act destabilized their world's narrative structure, causing them to be expelled. It is likely the world's core consciousness sent them here as a final act of retribution against you, to cause you inconvenience. I raised an eyebrow. I'd expected them to destroy each other. I just never thought they'd have the guts to kill their precious Julian. Leo snorted. Inconvenience? This is a chance for revenge. If I get my hands on her, I'll make her feel every bit of pain we went through. But for now, ringing the opening bell was more important. Despite the strange interruption, our company's IPO was a massive success. Leo talked a big game about getting revenge, but we had bigger things to do. For the next 6 months, we were constantly flying around the globe, closing deals. With the system's help, every venture was a spectacular success. Our company's value tripled. We finally earned a break. When we returned to our mansion, however, they were there, waiting. The head of security told us Isabella and Chloe had found the address 3 months ago. They showed up every single day, without fail. They'd even tried to get jobs with the landscaping crew, but were turned away. 6 months in our world had not been kind to them. They looked even older now. They were only in their early 30s, but their skin was sallow, etched with fine lines and sunspots. They'd lost the polished physiques of an actress and a CEO. It made sense. Chloe's stardom had been manufactured by Leo. In our world, with her fading looks, mediocre talent, and age, she stood no chance in Hollywood. And Isabella's CEO title had been 99% of my work. Here, without me, they couldn't survive. Chloe wrung her hands, looking at Leo with desperate hope. Leo, you're finally back. I've been waiting for so long. Let's go inside. Leo didn't even look at her. He just gestured to the guards, who moved to block her path. Chloe didn't seem to mind. She just smiled obsequiously. Leo, I know I'm a little dirty. Just let me come inside and get cleaned up. I promise. I'll take good care of you from now on. I'll never leave you again. Isabella was even more delusional. Ethan, I can't believe you waited for me all these years. I knew you still loved me. I was wrong, Ethan. It was killing Julian that gave us the chance to come find you. She grabbed my arm. He manipulated me. That's all. I know that now. I'll love you properly from now on, I promise. Hearing this, Leo and I burst out laughing. Ethan, he wheezed. They actually think we were waiting for them. Isabella's face fell. You haven't been with anyone else in all these years. You were waiting for us, weren't you? We were laughing so hard we had tears in our eyes. Their logic was just too pathetic. Why on earth would we stay hung up on them? We weren't single because we were waiting. We were single because we had too many options. As if on cue, a fleet of party buses pulled up to the gate. Dozens of gorgeous women poured out and ran toward us. Ethan, Leo, we miss you so much, they squealed, draping themselves over us. Isabella and Chloe stared in disbelief. Then, their faces contorted with rage, and they tried to push the other women away. He's mine. Don't you touch him. Get your hands off Ethan Vance. My security team earned their paychecks, swiftly subduing them. One of the models nestled against my shoulder and looked down at the two women kneeling pathetically on the driveway. Who are they? Just a couple of beggars, I said, loud enough for them to hear. I turned to the crowd of partygoers. Tonight, everything's on the house. Consider it our apology for the delay. With an arm around a beautiful woman on either side, Leo and I walked into our mansion, ignoring the desperate screams fading behind us. Life was too short to waste on people who didn't matter.